Hey guys, welcome to the second episode in Behind the A Pillar series of vlogs from Rev Atlas. So, in today's video, we'll actually be talking a bit more about phones in general and the various rumors as well as announcements that have been made yesterday as well as today. So, I'd like to start off with the Moto Z2 Play. The first generation Z Play was actually a really nice device and I loved it, especially at the price point of rupees 25,000. It provided incredible battery life. I think even the heaviest of users would be able to use it for 2 days thanks to the 3510 mAh battery, which didn't seem like much considering that it has a 5.5-inch display and 1080p screen, but it had a Snapdragon 625 chipset inside it, which is extremely power efficient, and many other devices too with the chipset were able to get really good battery life, and the Z Play was no exception. So the optimization, the battery capacity, and the processor all together played a huge role in assuring that it had really good battery life. Now comes the Z2 Play, which is essentially the second generation of the Z Play devices, and yes, it too supports Moto mods. You still have the same 16-pin connector at the back, which allows you to put on Moto mods. You get style cells which have built-in wireless charging. This time around, the difference is that it comes with a 3000 mAh battery. So I think the primary reason for this is that Moto really wants to sell you the battery pack mod at the back. So the previous generation too had a battery pack mod, but you really didn't need it. I mean, Incipio had a battery pack mod and it never really made its way to India, and most of them never really required it. I personally too never really felt the need to use it with the Z Play. But on the Z2 Play, 3000 mAh battery, Snapdragon 626 processor, and a same 5.5-inch 1080p display. So going by the math, it might not be too bad considering the 626 is essentially more or less like the 625 and is really power efficient. But even then, 500 mAh can create a big enough difference at times, and I think they really want to push you on a new battery mod that they have. So this new mod actually supports a feature called Power Boost, and it's a fast charging method that has 15-watt charging and allows you to top up your phone's battery by 50% in just 20 minutes. And that is really impressive, not just for a wall charger or a dedicated charger, but especially for a battery pack. 50% in 20 minutes is crazy. And they also have the same fast charging method going on for the wall charger as well, but of course you'll have to use the provided charger that comes with the phone itself. Now, other than that, what I really liked about the Z2 Play this time around is that it's thin. It's 5.99mm thin, and the initial Z2 Play was a bit thick, but I didn't mind considering the battery life. And another advantage this time around is that it's actually curved at the back and the front. So you have, not in terms of the display, of course the display is still flat, you have 2.5D curved texture up front, but other than that, the body itself is curved in such a way that it fits in well with your palms. The Z Play had a bit of a weird finish. It was flat at the back, flat at the front, and the edges seemed a bit too sharp at times, especially if you didn't use it with a mod. With a mod it felt kind of at home, but without a mod there was always a slight issue with it. So that was the Z Play, and now the Z2 Play has a better ergonomic design and feel, and it also comes with Android Nougat 7.1 out of the box itself. And additionally, you get two different variants, one with 3GB of RAM and 32GB of internal storage, while the other comes with 64GB of internal storage and 4GB of RAM. I'm not sure if this qualifies as an upgrade for most existing Z Play users. Perhaps you would be better, holding on to your existing device. But there is one main feature that could possibly tempt you to get the smartphone, and that is in the form of a massive camera upgrade. Now, those of you who remember, the Z Play had a decent camera at best, especially for the price of 25,000. Most of the other smartphones had good cameras, and the only one thing I really liked about the Z Play camera was the video recording. The EIS was incredible and the videos were really, really smooth. Apart from that, the image quality was not that great, and the Z2 Play comes with an upgraded camera in the form of a 12 megapixel camera with 1.4 micron pixel size. It has f1.7 aperture, and it also has dual pixel autofocus. So it seems like it's almost the unit that's being used in the Samsung S7 series and the S8 series, albeit without the dynamic image processing that they're doing on the S8 series. So it still seems like an interesting proposition, and some may go for it, especially if there is a good exchange offer, and I think you could possibly go for it. And all your existing Moto mods will work with this as well, which is again another bonus, and that is something that you have to give Lenovo credit for. Other than that, the other device that I like to talk about is basically the Nubia Z17. So the Z17 is the first device, I think, to be announced with 8GB of RAM. That is on the higher end variant, and it comes with the Snapdragon 835 processor and so on. It has high-end specifications apart from maybe a screen, where most devices are coming with a 1440p screen. At least now this has a 5.8-inch 1080p screen. But I really don't see the point in having so much RAM, especially on devices such as ZTE or Nubia, because I always find that the user interface is very clunky and it's not really optimized well. And despite having huge amounts of RAM or an incredibly fast processor, I always notice sluggishness. If you want to see a company that really does uses RAM or actually makes use of a UI that's really fast, I think the best outside of the Pixel lineup could possibly be OnePlus, and that's why I'm actually excited for the OnePlus 5. The OnePlus 5 is expected to come with 8GB of RAM. Regardless of whether it does come with 8GB of RAM or 6GB of RAM, the end result should be a really smooth OS and a really good performance and feel that would almost mimic the Pixel and the vanilla Android experience that you get from Pixel devices. Now, speaking of Snapdragon 835 powered devices, OnePlus was expected to be the first one to bring it in India with the OnePlus 5, but Sony had other plans on its mind, so they actually just announced the XZ Premium, which was a smartphone announced during MWC 2017 in Barcelona. And it's okay. I mean, all the Sony phones of recent past have all had the same sort of issues, same sort of design language, same sort of charisma, if you will, and I'm not really a big fan of it. I mean, they are a company who does hardware really well, and even the cameras. I mean, most of the cell phones out there, they use the camera units and the sensors provided by Sony, and yet their results are always better than what Sony is able to do or achieve with their own cameras. Why is that? So the XZ Premium 2 seems kind of the same. It's the first Snapdragon 835 powered device to be launched in India and is priced at Rs 59,900. Now, considering that LG G6 itself, which is priced at 51,990, had to go through a 10,000 rupee price cut. They say it's temporary, but I believe that they will have it for a long period of time, considering that how they're not able to sell as many units as they would like, considering that the S8 is available on the market as well. Even though it's a bit expensive, the S8 seems like a better value proposition for most, especially considering the huge difference in the screen sizes, the design, and many other aspects as well. So when you look at that, I think that Sony has really done a stupid move by launching it at 60,000 rupees. Essentially 59,990 is 60,000 rupees, and that's way too overpriced for a Sony device especially. Now, the last bit I'd like to talk about is the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus 6GB version, in the sense that 6GB RAM and 128 gigs of storage. So Samsung just announced this in India yesterday at a price of Rs 74,990. Now, if you know the pricing of the S8 Plus, the regular variant, that is 64,990. So this is 10,000 rupees more than the regular variant, and this actually comes with double the storage capacity and 2 gigs of extra RAM. I'll be honest, I've never really faced any issue when I'm multitasking or performing tasks on the S8 that really requires me to have more amounts of RAM. But okay, more RAM might be good, but then again, for me, the main highlighting factor of this is probably the 128 gigs of storage. I also have the Pixel 128 gigs, so having that much storage on board is definitely a plus. So that is probably the main reason why anyone would want the 128 gig variant. However, considering the price difference, I don't really know whether many people will go for it. I think that the 64GB version with 4GB of RAM should suffice for most people, but I think Samsung is really trying to tap into the market and get as much as possible, considering that there'll be many potential iPhone users who would want to shift, but then since the storage is kind of limited to 64 gigs, not exactly limited like an iPhone, since you can actually use a micro SD, but if you want to use dual SIMs, then you have no option to expand your memory. So the 128 gig plus 6GB does help those. But then again, it does also piss off many of the other customers, the existing S8 or S8 Plus customers who actually bought the phone not too long ago. It's been practically a month since the S8 and S8 Plus launched in India, and those people are already frustrated, I guess. I mean, not everyone has a limit to their spending potential. For example, there might be people who are willing to go up to 92k, which is around the price you would pay for a 7 Plus 256GB variant. So they might be willing to spend even a lakh, but since the S8 Plus, the regular variant, is what you can get, that's the flagship model, they went ahead with that. But now, knowing that there is a higher end variant, they might not be too happy about it. I think that there may be a few who sell the existing devices and go for it, and there may be a few who hold on to it. And those of you who haven't already gotten it, I think if you want something with a lot of storage, and perhaps you do a lot of multitasking on like crazy gaming and stuff, this is possibly a variant that you could go for. But I personally feel that the price difference of 10,000 rupees is not really justified. If it was more like 5k or 4k, I think I would have suggested that as well. So that was it, guys. That was the second episode of Behind the A-Pillar from Rev Atlas. I'm Sandeep, and I'll see you again in the next video. Thanks for watching. Please do subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. I hope you have seen our review of the S8 Plus as well. If you haven't, please click here. And as always, thanks for